Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Amira Al-Rahim. Today, me and my group members, Nurin, Fatin and Hajar will be presenting about basic energy system. Where does energy come from? Energy comes from food. For example, carbohydrate, protein and fat. Energy is needed to do some physical movement, maintain body temperature and keep up with all the metabolic activities in the body. Energy in our body is called adenosine triphosphate. For short, we call it as ATP. ATP is a high energy compound for storing and conserving energy. The components in ATP are adenine, which is nitrogen based, second is ribose, which is 5-carbon sugar, and lastly, phosphate group in a chain of 3. ATP is stored in muscle and the storage is limited. There are 3 types of energy system. One is ATP PCR system, second is glycolytic system, and lastly, oxidative system.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurin Nabila binti Muhammad Asrin and my metric number is 2019436266 and I'm from SR 1133D1. Thank you, Amira. I would like to continue this presentation with the first energy system or the main energy system, which is ATP-PCR energy system or lactic anaerobic. Alright, first of all, the things that you need to know is ATP-PCR energy system is consists of ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate with 3-phosphate and phosphocreatine, which is PCR. Okay, this energy system also called as an immediate energy system or the fastest energy system. It called as the fastest or immediate energy system is because the production of ATP that occur within 3 to 15 seconds. The next thing you need to know is the meaning of lactic anaerobic. Lactic means there is no production of lactic acid in this energy system, while anaerobic is mean there is no requirement of oxygen. Because there is no requirement of oxygen, this energy system is provided for the short duration exercise and in the high intensity. So next, let me move to the next slide, which is how does the ATP work. So this is just the basic, okay? That's the outlier. How does ATP work or how does the ATP change from the ADP to energy, okay? As you can see in the picture, at rest, it was ADP, adenosine diphosphate, with the phosphocreatine. While at work, the phosphocreatine will break down and turn into phosphate and creatine. The phosphate will bind together with the ADP, which is from 2-phosphate, it will turn to 3-phosphate and called as a ATP with triple phosphate. Okay, that's why at work it changes to creatine plus ATP or adenosine triphosphate and then turn into the energy. If you can remember, as I said, ATP just can occur within 3 to 15 seconds. Okay, so after that, lactic acid will produce. Okay, so that's all from me. I will pass it to Fatin.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Fatin Amira binti Muhammad Aswandi. I am from SR 1133D1. Today, I will be presenting a slide about glycolytic system. So what is glycolytic system? It is a system that contributes more energy to fuel the muscle. When does glycolytic system happens? It happens when the contribution of the fast glycolytic system to energy production increases rapidly after the initial 10 seconds of intense exercise. How did glycolytic system occurs? When the dietary carbohydrate supply glucose that circulates in the blood or is stored as glycogen in the muscle and the liver, then the blood glucose or the stored glycogen will be broken down into ATP through the process that is called glycolysis. So now moving on to the next slide, I will be explaining to you about the 4 steps in the glycolytic system. So the first So the first step is called glycolysis. It is the breakdown of glucose. It can be anaerobic or aerobic. So the next one is glycogenesis. It is a process which glycogen is synthesized from glucose. Then the glycogen will be stored in the liver. After that, we have gluconeogenesis. It is a formation of glucose that comes from non-carbohydrate sources, for example, the liver. And the last one is glycogenolysis, a process which glycogen is broken down into glucose 1-phosphate to be used by the muscle. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Oxidative system. Oxidative system relies on oxygen and it also produces ATP in the mitochondria. These systems are used during endurance events. It also involves aerobic glycolysis and fat oxidation. There are three types of oxidative system. First is aerobic glycolysis, second is Krebs cycle, and lastly electron transport chain.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nohaja Fatiha binti Sulaiman. My student ID is 2019282986 and I'm from SR133D1. So today I will present you about aerobic glycolysis, Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. What is aerobic glycolysis? Aerobic glycolysis is a series of reactions wherein oxygen is required to reoxidize NADH to NAD. Where the process happens? Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. How it happens? If oxygen available, the free energy contained in NADH is further reduced via reoxidation of the mitochondrial electron chain and result in the release of 30 mol of ATP per mole of glucose. If short supply of oxygen, NADH is reoxidized instead by reducing pyruvate to lactate. Let's move on to the Krebs cycle. The name of this metabolic pathway is derived from the citric acid cycle or tricarboxylic acid. The cycle consumes acetate in the form of acetyl-CoA and water, reduces NAD to NADH, releasing carbon dioxide. The NADH generated by the citric acid cycle is fed into the oxidative phosphorylation, which is included in the electron transport pathway. The Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix of the mitochondria. The net result of these two closely linked pathways is the oxidation of nutrients to produce usable chemical energy in the form of ATP. Overall, energy-containing compounds produce 3 NADH, 1 FADH, and 1 ATP. Let's move on to the electron transport chain. What is electron transport chain? Series complexes that transfer electrons between carriers in the electron transport chain in the membrane of the crystal is coupled to proton pumping. Why ETC happen? The electron transport chain releases the energy stored within the reduced hydrogen carriers in order to synthesize ATP, which involve the oxidative phosphorylation as the energy to synthesize ATP is derived from the oxidation of hydrogen carrier. The inner membrane is arranged into fold crystal, which increases the surface area available for the transport chain. Where it happened? The final stage of aerobic respiration is the electron transport chain, which is located on the inner mitochondrial membrane. So that's all from our group. Thank you.